Welcome to week 160, What's on My Mind, Introspection. Looking back to look within. Saturday afternoon, I met an aunt that I never knew existed. I've been looking into my family's past, just out of curiosity at first, poking around old documents and rummaging through genealogical records on Ancestry, then working with a local genealogist. You may remember some of my discoveries from our month's discussion on boundaries. I half expected to find nothing more exciting than a few musty birth certificates. Instead, I found an aunt. Let me say that again. I found an aunt I never knew about. Someone who'd been a part of my family tree all along, just one branch over. I met her in person this Saturday, and it was simultaneously the most surreal and wonderful experience. It was like catching a glimpse of a puzzle piece I didn't know was missing. This experience made me think how we've spent the last few weeks discussing introspection. Sometimes you look back expecting a bunch of facts, and instead you discover an entire person, another layer of your own story. In our first week of introspection, we explored how life's warning signs can go unnoticed if we don't take a moment to reflect. It's a bit like missing that piece of your history is hiding in plain sight. I've always wondered if there was more family out there. I could only shake my head. We've practically been living down the street the whole time. Her family lived in the same area where my family walked every day. We passed the same schools, shopped at the same grocery stores, and enjoyed the same ice cream spot, never knowing the relationship. Meanwhile, all the clues were available to me at the time. I had no idea. Looking back now, it's clear I was racing forward without checking my rearview mirror, ignoring the subtle signals that something bigger was at play in my own family story. Introspection is that mirror we all need to slow down and ask, is there something behind me that I'm missing? In week 158, we discussed entrepreneurship as a heart-centered road trip. We talked about fueling up with purpose, checking in with yourself before you barrel ahead. Discovering a long-lost aunt reminds me how easily we can get caught up in the day-to-day hustle and forget that there's a deeper context we're part of. Family, identity, and ancestry are all core pieces of who we are. They can drive or derail our entrepreneurial pursuits if we're not paying attention. Sometimes the best fuel stop is letting yourself being open to whatever you discover, even if it shakes up your sense of who you are. My aunt's existence didn't just change my family tree, it reconnected me to a sense of wonder. It reminded me there's more to life than the next deadline or business offering. In week 159, we talked about the control room in our minds, inspired by Pixar's Inside Out, and how our medial prefrontal cortex can be a brilliant navigator and a relentless overthinker. Finding out you have a surprise relative is a recipe for that control room to go haywire. Excitement, anxiety, curiosity, disbelief, they all start clamoring for the controls at once. And if you're anything like me, you know how quickly introspection can turn into rumination. Did I lose precious years? Should I have dug into my genealogy sooner? But then I remembered that introspection isn't about regret, but guiding me forward. That's where the sadness part of my brain might want to brood on what ifs and regrets. But as we learned, introspection's real gift is guiding us forward, not trapping us in loops of self-doubt. Recognizing the difference between helpful reflection and self-critical spiraling is crucial if we want to keep our emotional console balanced. So I breathed, smiled, and asked her about her life. Uncovering my aunt has connected the dots and tied together these 3 weeks of introspection in a way that I never anticipated. Check the rear view. My genealogical deep dive was a literal look backward. I found not just a name on a record, but a living, breathing person who expanded my sense of who I am. Fuel up with heart. Meeting her reminded me that real connections, family, friends, or new partnerships are often what keep us going. They're the emotional fuel that powers a heart-centered life and business. And navigate the control room. As excited I was to meet my aunt, I also noticed that flicker of what if swirling in my mind, recognizing when the brain shifts from genuine curiosity to unproductive rumination lets me stay present in the moment, celebrating this new family bond instead of getting lost in regret. I left Saturday afternoon with more questions than answers and a heart that felt unexpectedly full. If one slip of paper could alter my entire understanding of family, what else am I missing in my business, my daily life, or my own mind? Sometimes the best way forward is to stop and look within. If I hadn't practiced these introspective habits, if I hadn't paused, leaned into curiosity, and managed the swirl of emotions, I might have missed out on truly embracing this unexpected discovery. Much like finding a long-lost relative, introspection is about seeing aspects of yourself you might not have known existed. It's about recognizing the small signals, feeding your journey with genuine purpose, and keeping your emotional control room from spinning out of control. One genealogical surprise reminded me that we're all part of a larger story, and it's never too late to learn more about where we come from or where we're going. I plan to keep the conversation with my aunt going, hear her stories, and weave them into my own. In the same way, I hope you keep the conversation going with yourself through journaling, mindfulness, or simple moments of pause. Ask the big questions, notice the subtle ones, and never underestimate the power of looking back to illuminate where you stand today. Remember, introspection isn't a one-time event. It's a steady, ongoing practice. Whether you're confronting overlooked signs in your business, refueling with heart-centered motivation, or managing the mental control room of ADHD, the goal is growth, not perfection. And hey, who knows what you might discover? An old memory that sparks a new idea, a relative who broadens your understanding of home, or simply a fresh perspective that changes your path. The road is wide open. Just make sure to glance over your shoulder once in a while. Keep your heart in the driver's seat and steer your thoughts with compassion and intention. Here's to the journey, past, present, and future. So my questions for you this week are, what's a hidden branch in your own life or business that you've been hesitant or unaware to explore? And how might uncovering it change your perspective? Or how does your personal identity, family history, core values, or unique experiences fuel your entrepreneurial journey? And where do you see room for deeper exploration? I'd love for you to reply and share with me.